Olympia Hempfest, how you doing today? Nice day out, perfect day for it. Glad to see you here. It's good to come together in a celebration of freedom, especially when freedom extends to cannabis, as of course it should in a free society. And while we're here to celebrate that, we're also here to remember a few things, that we're not quite to the end zone yet when it comes to legalizing cannabis in Washington State. We had a sobering reminder of that just recently when my friend Serena Haskins and her business Sunshine Organics got raided and their merchandise got taken. There haven't been any arrests in that case yet, but that doesn't change the fact that that medicine was meant for patients. What Serena had to do that night was she had to go tell some parents that their children weren't going to have the medication, the oil that was stopping their seizures, that their oil wasn't going to be there for them anymore from that source, that they were going to have to look elsewhere. That's not okay. It's not okay when there should be other priorities for law enforcement than raiding a medical cannabis dispensary. This was done under the name of a recent piece of legislation, the most ironically titled Patient Protection Act, which was SB 5052. And that's a really unfortunate title for an act that stripped away many or most of the rights that Washington medical marijuana patients had up until that point. Now, if you want something done about that, it's a matter of convincing and educating our legislators who, when they passed this particular piece of legislation, did so from a point of not knowing much about what they were legislating and regulating. Only one group apparently had their ear during the writing of SB 5052, and that was the 502 merchants, the legal marijuana industry. Now, I'm glad marijuana is legal, but we don't need to get into the area of greed where the legal marijuana market attempts to prey on patients. What we can't have is a situation in which patients are priced out of the recreational market. Because as you may or may not know, as of July 1st, in our state of Washington here, medical marijuana dispensaries are no longer allowed under the legal marijuana system. That means a bunch of legal access points that I know, including one right in my hometown of Kingston, Washington, closed down on July 1st. That means I have to drive a lot farther to get my medicine legally now. That means I have to drive all the way to a 502 store, and there's none closer to me than like at least a 30-minute drive away. That's a big difference for patients with ailing health, with limited mobility, and with limited income. Now you throw in the fact that now they're paying, in many cases, maybe in most cases, twice or even 3 times the previous price that they had been able to pay at these medical dispensaries that were forced to close down on July the 1st. And you're seeing that patients are being sacrificed on the altar of corporate profits. That's not okay. Legal marijuana is good. I'm glad it's legal here in Washington, but we're going to have to take a long, serious look at how we have treated the medical marijuana community in this state. We don't have to force them into a profit-making scheme of which they never asked to be a part. Now, the medical marijuana community can be self-sustaining. They can grow their own if you simply allow them to do so legally, like they had been allowed to do from 1998 when Washington first passed their medical marijuana law and the voters approved it, until July 1st of this year, when some of those limits were seriously cut back by SB 5052. The reason that I go into that is because it has changed a lot of lives for the worse, and that includes a lot of kids who had ready access to cannabis oil to limit their seizures. A lot of cancer patients who had hope because of the full extract cannabis oil that had been readily available for them in Washington's medical marijuana scene. Now that's changed in a big way. That means that a lot of people who want to go by the law are no longer able to help patients. That means that some people who say, whatever the law is, I'm going to help patients since I know how to help them. That means that those people are black market now. That means those people are subject to arrest. That means that we're going to have patient providers going to jail. That's not okay. We have to change this in Washington. I don't want to see my friends that provide to a lot of patients in need, to kids who are subject to seizures, to patients who are fighting cancer, to people like myself who are seeking an alternative to the addictive and toxic pharmaceuticals offered us by conventional medicine for pain control. For those of us who choose a different path, for those of us who choose medical cannabis, there should be an affordable way to do that. We shouldn't be forced into a profit-making scheme. Now, having said that, let's say that all we can do at this point is hope for a change in the law for the better, in the favor of patient access, in the favor of patient growth. All that patients are asking is that they be allowed to provide for themselves and to become self-sufficient as far as providing their own medicine. There's a reason that cannabis works for so many ailments, and that's not because it's snake oil. It's because there is a co-evolution that has happened between the cannabis plant and the human species. We know this goes back at least 12,000 years, and that's just what we can prove. It probably goes a lot farther back than that. But we know from archaeological evidence and cannabis found in ancient tombs that we have at least a 12,000 year relationship with this plant. This plant has evolved its cannabinoids that can help the human endocannabinoid system, and we have these cannabinoid receptors which respond to this plant. That means that we have an actual relationship with this cannabis plant. It's ongoing, and as we continue as human beings with this relationship, there are people out there today who are breeding specific varieties of cannabis, not only to help specific ailments, but this is one of the most exciting developments of all in cannabis medicine, in my opinion. We have now breeders out there, and I know this for a fact, who are breeding plants to address the symptoms of specific patients, not just specific ailments, but specific patients. We have strains being bred to address the specific ailments of a little girl that I know of who lives in Oregon. We have one of the best breeders in the world working on that right now, and it's making a real huge difference in her life. Whereas before she was on about 30 pharmaceuticals, the last I heard she was down to 3 or 4. And we're on all the pharmaceuticals, which by the way weren't working very well and which were messing up her digestive system very badly. She was still having multiple seizures a day. I'm talking dozens of seizures a day. Now on the cannabis, when she has a seizure, it's out of the ordinary. There are very few seizures anymore. When cannabis is making this kind of an impact on people's lives, especially children, I think it's time to take a look at making it readily available to them. I think cannabis should be readily available to any patient who needs it medically. It should be affordable to them, and it shouldn't be available only to the wealthy, as sometimes, unfortunately, is becoming the case under I-502 legalization. So let's continue forward with our progress. Let's not stop until we reach the end zone for legalization. Let's not stop until we reach access for everyone, regardless of health, regardless of income. Let's not stop until everyone has the right to grow this wonderful medicinal, healthful plant. It not only increases health, it increases consciousness, and it increases homeostasis, which is the balance of all body systems which we can reach when we take care of ourselves properly. So think about what your laws are in Washington. Think about how we can make the world better for a lot of people without harming anyone else in the process. Think about how we can come to a better society when we build cannabis into it so that people who need it can readily have it. That's going to make a real difference in the world we live in. When a world has happier, healthier, more conscious people in it, you're going to have a better world. That's the kind of world that we need. That's the kind of world we're not going to stop working until we have. And that's the kind of world that I look forward to joining you in the future. Now, if you want to know more about this relationship, this 12,000 year relationship between the human species and the cannabis plant, I invite you to read my book, The Little Black Book of Marijuana. You can get that on Amazon.com. You can get it personally from me, a signed copy, pretty much any way you want it. You can order it from me. Go to tokesignals.com, which is my website, if you want to know more. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Enjoy Olympia Hempfest, and let's celebrate Freedom Day, people. Thank you.
We recorded up until right then.
No, I